What's up, everybody? We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. So, back in December 14th, I saw a really interesting tweet go out by Blockchain Bloodline, and he was talking about putting up this blog post about how he intended on going full-time into ZedRun by July 1st is his deadline. And this is kind of a map of what all he's planning on doing, how he thinks about the game, how he thinks this is going to be achievable. Now, some of this stuff is going to sound a little different maybe because this was pre-roadmap. So I'm pretty excited for the concept. I know there's a lot of people who are trying to make this a reality, so I thought it'd be really, really good to go over this. Now, I am just going to kind of skim through it and paraphrase it, and then kind of go back and add my color commentary and go from there. So if you're unfamiliar with Blockchain Bloodline, follow him on Twitter. Super nice guy. He's definitely intelligent. Has been entrepreneurial for the majority of his life, so I have full faith that if he sticks with it, that he will definitely get there. So Blockchain Bloodline. So he straight away goes into, he's made a living making off-the-wall business decisions and investments for the majority of his life, and it has been successful for him. So So his friends and family weren't surprised by the idea that he wanted to be a digital horse racer full-time, which is a better response than what mine have given. But one of the things here, he said he heard on a Zed content creator's quote for Chris Ebling, horse racing is a sport of kings. At Zed, we will make kings. And while in the metaverse, I'd certainly like to be a successful stable owner, one of those kings that Chris spoke of. So it can be done. Deadline is July 1st. Full disclosure, I'm not a 25-year-old man. Still establishing himself. He is a 42-year-old with a family of 4. He says he's in a more cruisy stage of his life. I like how he worded that. But he also has other projects and investments that he is a part of and, owner of. So even if ZedRun does turn for the worst, he is able to, stay afloat, and he's not completely, hedging everything against this and put his family at risk. But basically leaving my days as the owner and sole staff member of a boutique wine label and dedicating my work time to ZedRun. I'm honestly full-time ZedRun now anyways. I just squeeze in deliveries and paperwork in between races. So yeah, he actually made the decision to go full-time several months ago, and he's just been kind of building up the stable in a way that would allow that to happen. So from there, we move into Q1. He believes that ZedRun will move out of beta and move into its next iteration. This will increase, based on marketing, scale of the game. It makes July 1st a very doable plan. Is what he's basing everything off of. So how exactly will we make an income? So we're going to go into kind of the income streams and revenues. So breed to race. As of December 14th, we've had a couple really big tournaments. People are making a lot of money. We've had the special events with the Netflix sponsored race or the Harder They Fall sponsored race where you were able to win pretty big cash prizes. And so breeding good racehorses in-house to win leagues, cups, seasons, sponsored races, and everything else that ZedRun throws at us in the racing format. That's kind of his first direction. And we'll go into his breeding strategies on another page. I really enjoyed going over that as well. But yeah, so with that in mind, they have accumulated good breeding pairs of Most Genesis Bloodlines. The only one that they're missing is the Z1 Nakamoto female. But being able to create this in-house talent with reasonable numbers at low cost will become an absolute superpower in the future. Not just from winning the big tournaments, but from placing in finals, sponsored races, large stables picking up fractions of ETH across the board in many paid competitive environments. This will be the main source of income for the stable and hopefully a complementary by the big odds prize pools. Breeding to sell. So once they find the rhythm and have learned more about breeding and building up the breed stock, horses will become more and more successful on the track. They'll increase the reputation of the stable, and that will allow them to produce plenty of racehorses to be sold. So with currently 35,000 players, we already are seeing horse sales of $500,000 and stud fees being $1,600. One can only imagine that these prices will have what the prices will be when we have millions of players. A Z1 stud could fetch 5 figures from breeding a proven $1 million winner that might go for several $1 million on sale. So, sponsored merchandise. So third income stream, we can currently see a form of sponsorship through it may be strange now, but custom skins, branding, products, websites, being able to produce your own merchandise based on your brand. I do like, the whole custom skin idea and stuff like that. And then value increase. So the final price of the puzzle would be value increase. They paid $100,000 for their Z1 Nakamoto, and I have told people that were shocked to spend that much on a digital horse. Personally, I feel like we bought a $1 million horse at a discount. In the future, as the game grows, so will the value of Genesis horses, the proven breeders and proven racers. We don't plan on selling from our original horses, but if the values reach the stratosphere, it will add intrinsic value to our stable that can be cashed out if it needs. And summing it up, it's time for a change in my life, and this is a dream that I hope that I can turn into a reality. As a kid, back in the 80s, we joked around about playing video games for a living. Perhaps this year, or perhaps all these years later, I can make it so. My kids are a few years away from finishing school, and now themselves, and by then, if the dream comes true, planets align, we'll be moving to the Gold Coast, sipping cold drinks on the beach while racing digital horses for a living. Wish me luck. So, it's a pretty solid plan. He's acquired breeding Genesis pairs, so he has, Genesis Buttes, Genesis Finneys, Genesis Zabos. So he's able to produce all those different legendaries in-house. And in-house breeding is just so much cheaper than retail. I should know because I don't pay for in-house breeding. I buy everything retail. And it's not the cheapest strategy, but I do have reasons for it. You can watch some of my other videos if you're new here. But I definitely think Zed is committed based on the roadmap to market the hell out of this game going into this year. When they're prepared to do that, we'll see. I do think it's going to be sooner than later, especially if the NFT world continues to rise. People are going to find out about ZedRun accidentally, even on that own. Breeding a race, obviously, if you're a big stable who has horses that can win money, or if you're able to win money with your racers, if you have good proven breeders, breeding race is key, right? Being able to take advantage of, cross-stable breeding or even the 35% in-house discount, and then just print ETH with your horses, especially with the current breeding fees. It's so cheap right now. And then, once he gets that Z1 mare, those Z2 legendaries fetch a really good premium, even if you're not breeding to race or breeding to sell. So, as we've seen, many stables are making, it's only the 15th of January, we're seeing a ton of stables already making, 1 ETH profits from racing. And some of those stables aren't even tournament stables. Some of those are day-to-day grinders. With the tournament stables, you're seeing 1.5, 2 ETH almost. And we're only halfway through the month with 2 big tournaments on the way. So, breeding to sell, as it scales, It's very easy to breed to sell. He talks about the horse that sold for $500,000. That was Breathless Edge. Its newest unnamed, unbred, unraced horse, its UU foal, sold for $10,000. And yeah, stud fees of $1,600. See it all day. You know, one more Tish. It's constantly being listed for near ETH. I know Diamonds gets listed for, you know, a quarter ETH. People aren't buying them often, but as the game grows and as the game scales, I think we'll see a definitely uptick in those types of prices being sold, and definitely there'll be opportunities for good studs to fetch a true premium. Sponsorships and merchandise. And he's not just talking about like sponsorships and merchandise within the game. He's talking about creating his own brand, getting sponsors for his own brand, his company that is his stable. And this is something I've been preaching since day one. Anybody I've talked to, you know, in the Zed ecosystem, has really been about being able to create a brand for yourself, for your own stable. Because at the end of the day, if I have to choose between two horses I want to buy, two horses I want to breed with, two people that I want to interact with, the one that has the most established identity normally wins, and one that has an established identity that people identify with normally win. So learning a little bit of marketing, collaborating with other stables, creating characters behind your horses, stuff like that is really going to solidify your ability to be successful in the future, especially because if you can get some sort of sponsorship deals, whether it's a naming right, whether it's a sponsored race, you know, maybe there's higher entry fee tournaments and you get, you know, a local company to sponsor your videos during that tournament or something like that. That's money in the bank that isn't required you to perform necessarily on the track unless you have a contingent contract. So it's definitely something that's coming. It's definitely something I've been building out, waiting for the right opportunities in Zed to deploy, and it's the right move. And I also agree, right? Like $1 million horse at this point in the game sounds crazy, but it's definitely not far-fetched. I definitely see it being possible in the very near future. So the breeding strategy, I really enjoyed the breeding strategy. It's well thought out, it's well rounded, and we're not going to go into too many details here. You know, once again, check out the website if you want to go through it yourself. But so the breeding strategy is based around what we imagine Zed creators might have had in mind as the inspiration for the game itself, which is real life horse breeding. You know, that is up for debate, but once we get through this, you'll see why I think it's such a good plan. So with that in mind, we decided to do similar things with our digital horses. The Nakamoto is the premium bloodline of ZedRun and is followed closely by the Zabo, so we decided a mixed line of the two was an exciting place to start our breeding program. As we know, Nakamoto upstepped legendaries are very valuable. The Z5 UUs catch such a premium over, you know, the Z6s and everything else. The Z6 Finnies right now are rivaling the Z2 legendary Nakamotos for pricing. So, and the Z6 Finny, you know, it's a Nakamoto stud with the Z1 Nakamoto with the Z5 Finny. So to see, you know, those Finny legendary prices rival the Z2 prices, it's quite insane. So, you know, trying to keep those Z numbers low, bringing those in, creating purebred bloodlines that he can then move down, and then also doing the cross bloodlines. That's a breeding matrix. So yeah, so if you're familiar with the breeding rules within ZedRun, you can hold your breeds with the exclusive and elite lines, and then breed that back into the Genesis Stallion. So we believe this is part of the game designed. It is a distinctly important aspect of breeding. So we are utilizing this feature for the game to hold our breeds at the exclusive level while following and hand-selected DNA from both in-house horses and paid studs. So essentially, because the exclusive is like the cutoff for the hold, well, you can hold all the way through, right? But exclusives, they seem to have their own like little unique ability because they can be created by legendaries. So essentially, he's really going to focus on keeping everything exclusive or better. We've talked about crossbreeding. He's also talked about doing different types of inbreeding because, we've seen some of the data. A lot of the data suggests that inbreeding may not be the best way. Now, is that because there is some sort of bloodline trait and it's not good for how the game's designed, or whether it's not because when you're inbreeding, you're breeding 3 or 4 generations down and then coming back in, which makes it a 5th generation horse, and 5th generation horses at this time don't have a very solidified place on a consistent basis. It's yet to be seen. But the fact that he's doing purebred bloodlines, he's doing inbreeding bloodlines, he's doing crossbreed bloodlines, he's mixing in his stable and other stables and really factoring these into separate breeding strategies, it's going to give him the flexibility to survive whatever the game throws at him. Maybe in 5 years when we have a huger sample size, we learn something that we didn't understand today. And those who constantly chased whatever trend in breeding is going on and only breed that way, you could get left out or completely miss the boat. Which I think it's important, especially if you have a big stable, to try to keep a little bit of everything and expand. So along with breeding the pureblood legendary foals, they also look to explore the mixed breeding, which we talked a little bit about before. And a lot of when you read through all of this, whether it's the stud page, whether it's his roadmap for becoming independently sustainable on ZedRun, a lot of it's about having fun. It's about having a good time. It's really easy, when you're playing this game, to get caught up in the money and the math and not enjoy yourself. And obviously, it's much more enjoyable when you're making money. But designing the game in a way that you enjoy it is absolutely the best way. And the one thing, too, if we go back to, making the money with ZedRun, this was pre-roadmap. So he didn't even know about the horse running system. And if you're somebody who can constantly pump out, those Z legendaries of any of the breeds, you have breeding pairs of the Nakamotos and the Zavos, your horse renting capabilities and breeding to horse race is going to be astronomically bigger than those who don't. And that just makes, this idea of being able to become self-sustainingly financially independent with ZedRun absolutely doable. So here's some of his horses for the stud. This isn't all of them, but these ones are in here. You have the links down here for Know Your Horse and everything else. So your Z link, your Know Your Horse link, some of the stats. If we look here at Pinnacle, it's kept them unraced, which I'm going to assume is probably a good strategy for flipping the horse at a later date in case it does hit that high level that we talked about. You have some pretty good win percentage horses in here, high teens, mid teens, a lot of teens. That's pretty good track record. So if you're looking for the studs, check out the stud barn page. Feel free to reach out to him. And one thing I do like is he's keeping his prices high. It's very easy if you're selling studs to support your stable to list the floor to increase the likelihood that they get sold. But if you're not somebody who is selling the covers to sustain, it's more of a nice to have. I definitely think listing higher, especially for proven breeders, is the way to go. One, because it creates precedent on your bloodline. If it's more expensive, it's more expensive. And, like Poseidon not just breeding Breathless Edge when him and his brother owned it all the time is what allowed the horse to sell for $500,000. So, You just kind of have to wait for the game to scale to catch up to that type of demand. But when it happens, it happens. And then the sales page is coming soon. So I've talked to him a few times. He is going to revamp the website a little bit and start a rebranding campaign here very soon. And I'm really looking forward to it. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. And like I said, he's a super cool guy. Definitely a pleasure to talk to and work with. And I'm really excited for his journey here. Like I said, I think it's completely doable. I think it's going to be challenging with all the changes going on this year, but I think those changes are going to create really good opportunities. In his his own roadmap to success, he talks about how he's tried to time the markets. When there's huge dips, buy more. If something comes available that he really likes, pick it up when you can. So, like I said, links are in the description. Be sure to check it out. It was a lot of fun kind of going through this and kind of seeing how somebody else is thinking about the game. So, hope you enjoyed.